author, researcher, and speaker who's challenged mainstream views for over 3 decades. Born in 1952 in Leicester, England, he began as a professional footballer, then became a prominent BBC sports broadcaster and journalist. But in the early 1990s, he left the mainstream media after a now famous TV appearance where he was widely mocked for his emerging views on reality and power.
Let me say this.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you.
Fine.
He has since authored more than 20 books, including The Biggest Secret, exploring theories of reptilian shapeshifters, interdimensional beings influencing humanity, and a reincarnation cycle trapping souls in illusion. Once dismissed, many of his warnings about global control and hidden agendas have gained new attention as recent revelations and events unfold. And at 73, he still remains a very provocative voice. So sit down, strap yourselves in, and for the next few hours, I ask that you suspend your disbelief as we welcome David Icke. David, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for inviting me here.
Pleasure.
A lot of things I want to talk about today. There's a few conversations. First of all, I think that talking to you in the current climate and the current situation of the world is quite fitting, and it feels like you're through what we're seeing and all the alternative media that's come out and just people being open to this idea of the subconscious or the unconscious or consciousness in general. It feels like you're being more and more vindicated throughout, this portion of history. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I remember when I consciously started out in 1990, and in the years that followed, I couldn't generate any interest in any of this stuff. I couldn't generate interest in the fact that a few people were running the world, and they weren't who people thought were running the world. I couldn't generate interest in the whole idea of consciousness, like who are we, where are we, what is this place? And when I look at it now, 36 years later, well, I know people say, people aren't waking up fast enough. Well, okay, I'll go with that. But they should have been with me in 1990. To me, this is dreamland now, because there are so many people who would have waved this whole stuff away before and said ridiculous, crazy, who are now beginning to look and say, well, maybe it's not so crazy. So it's great in that sense. But,
do you feel a sense of vindication?
Well, vindication in the sense of what I've talked about and what I said is the plan for humanity has turned out to be increasingly true, has been for a long time now. But it is also frustrating because I've seen people come into the alternative media, which didn't exist when I started out. It was just a few disparate individuals, handing out leaflets. No internet as we know it now. They've come in and they've basically taken it over. And they've taken it over in terms of algorithmic promotion, because the algorithms now are absolutely bottom line if you want to get information out. Because if the algorithms are suppressing you, what's called shadow banning, then it doesn't matter how many people follow your page, say on X, you will not have vast numbers of those people seeing what you post unless they go to your page and actually look at you individually. And what this kind of hijack has done is come in and stop what should be the constant expansion of questions about everything. Tell you what I mean. So you come in and you say the conspiracy is politics and finance and the system. It's the world of the scene. That's it. And so what you're doing with people that go with that is they may have been there before and now they've done there, but they're still in a box because it might be a slightly bigger box, but it's still a box because they're not going beyond it. It's like, oh, everything's here. And if you notice now, so much of what is put out as in the conspiracy arena is like going round and round. It's like an eddy in the river. The river is flowing past knowledge, potential knowledge, insight, all that stuff. But you're going round and round, basically repeating the same stuff. And I've always worked, and it served me very well, on the principle of what's attributed to Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, which is to know is to know you know nothing. Or put another way, wisdom is knowing how little we know. Because what that does is you always know, and this really is one of the few things that can't be challenged, that whatever we know or think we know, there's always more to know. And once you put a lock and a block upon that expansion into, okay, I think I've got this, but what don't I know? You are creating this eddy, and you're stopping the expansion of awareness into those areas, not only to understand the scale of human control, but that's where the answers lie. They don't lie here. I mean, what do? You're going to vote for party A? Yeah, okay. So you don't like what they've done? No, I don't. So how do I get rid of it? Well, you have to vote for party B. Okay. But I mean, they're doing pretty much the same. How do I get rid of them? Oh, you go to party A again. And this is the eddy, round and round and round. And so I've always worked on the premise of whatever I know, there's always more to know. And that has taken me on an extraordinary journey from in the early 90s, uncovering this, what I call global cult, this global network of secret societies that are driving world events, fiercely compartmentalized. It's the inner circle that's really doing the driving. And then my next question was, okay, so when did this start? Because obviously it didn't start 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago. And you start to look back and you get comfortably back into Rome and Babylon and Egypt and all that stuff. And you realize actually that this has been going on all through this period of what we call history, or what we think is history. And so then the next question you ask when you're saying, okay, what don't I know, is what's the common factor that has spanned this period of time where people have been born into this cult, if you like, they have played a part in advancing its control, and then they've died. And then other people, or their own consciousness, has come back and it's gone on to present day. So what is the force that spanned that whole period? And what I have found is that when you ask the big questions, you get the big answers.
Hey, David Icke, I have the answer. It's called the fucking Jews. Just say it. It's called the fucking Jews. Coming out more and more in the mainstream media these days, I can tell you that. It's the Jews.
when you keep asking questions and you really want to know the answers, it's not just an add-on. You really want to know. As I understand it, I've understood it more and more as this period has gone on. We are interacting with the quantum level, if you like, of reality. And we are creating a feedback loop between our perceptions of reality, including our questions of reality, and the quantum level of energy, that level of all possibility, all potential, waiting to manifest. How do we manifest it? With our perceptions of reality, what you believe, you perceive, what you perceive, you experience. And so by continually asking these big questions, like, okay, so what is this force that spans this whole period? And suddenly the synchronicity, and I know Carl Jung talked about synchronicity, but what is synchronicity? Synchronicity, if you break it down, is our interaction with all possibility, with all potential. And so, and people talk about prayer when they're praying for help from God. Yeah, but is it God that's delivering, or is it you that's delivering by the focus of attention that you're giving to your interaction with this quantum level of all possibility? So what I've been experiencing through these years, when I've asked the big questions and the next question, the answers have come, and they've come through synchronicity, walking into people, documents, books, personal experiences, and so on, that have been like handing me puzzle pieces in a jigsaw. Actually, pretty much in the order necessary to see where they go. And so what this is, just to finish with what this has done, it's taken me from those that run the world are not people who seem to be running the world. It's all happening in the shadows, to what then happened in the mid 1990s, where this whole non-human aspect of the human control came in. That's the force that spans these generations from another dimension of reality. And on to the nature of reality itself, which includes, I have long concluded, like about the turn of the millennium, that this is actually this reality is the equivalent of a vastly advanced virtual reality computer game. And we are being manipulated to stay within its orbit of control.
There's a lot to unpack there. That's there's so many teachings and so many books and so many philosophers, and that all point to some semblance of this being the reality that we're interacting with. Even quantum physics and sort of if you look into simulation theory, and it all kind of.
Hey, it's Ashley with 4 Patriots. We're in a bit of trouble. To put it plainly, we need to clear out some space in our warehouse fast. We recently received a massive shipment of survival food, and right now our shelves are overflowing. But our pain is your gain. To clear out our backlog, we're authorizing a special deal.
Plays within this a little bit, but what you're I guess suggesting is that there is a controller on the other end of this, and that controller might have some type of personal gain through doing this, whatever that gain might be, whether that's we talk about loosh, like Robert Monroe's sort of teachings, or whether we talk about just keeping everything in a lower vibration for whatever personal appeal that might offer them. I want to go back to, in the mid 90s, you met with a Zulu shaman, Credo Mutwa.
Yeah, that was very late 1990s.
Yeah, and you know, a 6-hour interview. I watched the whole thing. It was really interesting because not only does he mention the sort of the Shatari, I think, which are like essentially reptilians by the same definition, or reptile-like beings. But also these other beings that were sort of like Nordics, like these tall blondes that would have the ability to sort of disappear. And
he also talked about the Greys.
And the Greys as well. And I thought that was really interesting because you don't often hear sort of a comprehensive sort of, I guess, picture based on all of these different species and what their role is. But he kind of had a really comprehensive explanation for all of this. How much has his teachings and his stories, how much has that impacted how you see the phenomenon?
Not as much as you would think, because the relationship with myself and Credo was one of, he would tell me the ancient stories of Africa and the Zulu legends and the Zulu accounts. And I would tell him what I'd learned in the modern world. And the extraordinary thing is why we got on so well, is we told the same story. Because by the time I came across Credo Mutwa when I was speaking in South Africa, I'd already concluded that there was a reptilian, non-human level of human control, that this global cult of secret societies, but certainly its inner core, was basically the vehicle within our reality, which is only a band of frequency, for imposing upon humans the agenda that was coming from this other reality, what people call the astral reality. And so I'd concluded many of the things that he told me about, but what he did, which added massively to it, was confirm that the ancient stories were telling the same story that I was covering. Like when I was in America during the 1990s, I mean, I was talking to nobody. I was supposed to be on a speaking tour. Well, that was great, but I was speaking to chairs, not people, most of the time. And but what was happening then is I was meeting all these different people, whistleblowers, people formerly of the military, people who experience UFOs and stuff. And they were telling me all this stuff. They told me about the reptilian stuff. Well, not just them. I was getting this from members of the public. I remember there was a period in what would it be, 1996, when 96, when I was speaking to no bugger night after night in different places. And in a period of 15 days, I met 12 separate people who told me the same story of how they'd seen, this is synchronicity, how they'd seen
Shape-shifting.
Someone appeared to be human who shifted into a reptilian form. So by the time I met Credo, this was starting to become clear in my mind. But what he added was the phenomenal knowledge he had of the ancient legends and the ancient accounts. And also, of course, he talked about his own abduction by what appeared to be gray entities, which was a classic abduction in so many ways. And so it was like a fusion of the two. And it was very, very helpful.
I want to take a second to talk to you about the quality of this show. Obviously, I spend a lot of time, perfecting, fine-tuning, even set building, lighting, all the components that go into movie making. But I do this on a weekly basis for YouTube. And anyone dabbling in social media or making their own videos knows that it's a lot of work. And so sometimes I like using AI to help me tell a story, especially a story that involves things that are impossible to film. And so recently I've been using Higgsfield Cinema Studio, and let me tell you, it's the closest thing to actual filmmaking. I'm gonna break down how easy this is to use. First, I need a character. I went with a man in his mid-50s, presidential figure, dark hair, clean shaven. Got a couple options, went with this guy. Next, I'll create the location. Fancy bathroom in the White House, chandeliers, marble, etc. Perfect. Now for the video. This is where I use the image to begin the scene. From here, I can choose camera motions, zoom ins, orbital shots, pans, even speed ramping. You can also choose how many shots in your scene and whether or not you want audio, etc. I'll add my prompt here and the duration of the scene, and here it is. So most tools in AI, as you probably know, feels like gambling every time you hit the generate button. But with Higgsfield, it feels more like directing. And everything's in one place, so no jumping between tools or weird workflows. So if you're into filmmaking or even just dabbling, posting stuff on social media, whatever it is, I urge you to just give it a shot, because you're going to be surprised at what you're able to create using Higgsfield. So I'll drop the link below. Please use my link if you can, if you're going to sign up, and